Secrets. Have you guys ever taken any time to really think about secrets? There's so many of them every day. Some a little bit fun, some not so fun. Maybe you stumbled into something, you walked in at the moment you absolutely should not have walked in. As you opened the door, you saw something you never should have seen. That memory is seared onto your brain. You have tried for years to undo what you saw that day. However, you never said a word. It's been your secret to keep, and you've wrestled to try to come to terms with that duality. Or maybe something happened to you when you were little. Someone did something, and you didn't say a word. You didn't want it to happen, but you couldn't find a way to speak. You wonder now, years later, do they think that you allowed it? So many secrets, so many different ways they happened, so much we keep inside. And often, we take on the shame. We don't intend to, but every once in a while, it happens. You keep something in, and it changes you. It grooms you. And you know what? We have all been groomed for something. The word groomed means to be prepared for something. The synonyms are conditioned, schooled, primed. Grooming. Think about your grooming. Perhaps it was positive. Perhaps you were groomed to take over the family business. Perhaps your grooming was for a life of affluence, to attend Harvard. But for some, that might not have been their grooming at all. For some, if you were abused, coerced, manipulated, bullied, ignored, anything that left you in silence, this was a different path. This was a different grooming. And we've all been groomed. But what if the world were to change? What if the silenced were silenced no more? What if we were to create a world where our children were empowered and given the tools and the voice to say no or stop? And what if now you, as an adult, were brave enough to dig way back, go to those places you don't want to think about or haven't thought about or try not to think about, and let it come up and give it voice and speak to the things that you'd rather not speak? Because we've all been groomed. And I'd like to see a world where we turn it around. The poet, Adrienne Rich, she wrote, "Until we know the assumptions in which we are drenched, we cannot know ourselves." And when we take this step and we're willing, we open a new world, a new lens. I am the CEO and co-founder of a couple organizations, Fela Freedom, the Sail Away Foundation, and people really struggle with what I do. It's not like great party talk. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear. Because it's hard, and it's dark, and it's difficult, but it's rewarding because on the other side, there's so much more. We run organizations that help American children that have been abused, sexually abused, and kept secrets, very dark secrets, those secrets that led them to the point where they couldn't take it anymore. So a little girl, 1 out of 3 in fact, in any zip code in America, and a little boy, 1 out of 5 of those in any zip code, any suburb, any town in America, is keeping a horrific secret. Exponentially, these secrets are being kept. And when a child can no longer keep it, what we now know is that they will run. When the place that is supposed to be safe is no longer safe, they will run right into the arms of a predator. And we now call him a trafficker. And the thing with the traffickers is, unlike us that are uncomfortable to understand and to get into someone's shame and what they come from, he knows. He's been schooled on understanding their shame. And as they run to him, he knows exactly what to say. He knows how to feign love, how to give them the attention, how to lure them in. because he knows they're grooming. He knows exactly what it looks like. And those kids, they come, thousands of them, into our program. I have literally, over the last decade, had the privilege to hear story after story after story. And they carry some major secrets, some shame, some things that they wish had never happened to them. But you know, what's interesting is also over the last decade, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of supporters and donors of Sailor Freedom. And they come with their own stories. Many of them come and bring their grooming to the light. It seems that Sailor Freedom is a very safe place for all to come and bring what they've never brought before. And what's interesting is, over the years, as I've listened, I realize that the girls' stories, the messages that they've kept, the secrets they held in their childhood, very similar to mine. I have held many of those exact same secrets. And I remember the very first time my worldview was shattered. It was a family friend. He touched me. He did things to my body. He said words that left me shocked. In an instant, my worldview changed. I had a new norm. All of the shame, everything that happened was put into me. And I could not come to terms with how what had happened had literally just happened. I told myself this could not be true. And literally, the very next day, I felt the effects of it. As a safe, favorite uncle of mine came towards me at a gathering, and he went to put his arm around me, and I froze. I literally recoiled because I no longer could receive the simple love I had taken for granted just the day before. I never said a word. No one sets out to keep a secret. Just as no one sets out to become a victim of sex trafficking, labeled, discarded, maybe called, oh, they're just troubled, oh, that promiscuous one, and then later in life, she's just a prostitute. Really? How does that happen? Tell me this. How many of us have children, right? Quite a few. Can you imagine when your little girl was maybe 6 years old, her climbing up on your lap in her little tutu, right? Remember the cute little ballerina tutus? And she hops up there and she's like, when I grow up, I hope to be a prostitute. I want to be used for sex by old men, and I want them to do disgusting, horrible things to me and hurt me and make me have such shame that I can't even look at myself in the mirror. Would you ever dream of saying, oh, honey, you're going to be the best little prostitute ever. Yeah, that's great. Hello? No. But what are we doing when we know the grooming pattern that leads these girls to the street, and that once they're there, what happens? They're lured in. A little girl that runs into the arms of a predator, he will typically sell her 15 to 40 times a day for 7 years. Starts when she's 12. This is grooming. There are so many stories, so many things that happen. This predator that takes these girls in, and they keep these secrets, and they run into his arms, they never set out for this path. Just as the other stories that I've been told weren't intentional. I know people that have told me amazing secrets about how now they are able to perform and project an image, and no one would ever believe that they came from this past. These friends of mine, they're like the superheroes. They're the president of this leader, this champion, they were the valedictorian. They have been groomed to overcome and project an image that makes them and everybody else look fantastic. Other secrets I have been shared, people have told me about. A woman said when she was in youth group, a pastor, week after week, said to her, "Why do you do this to me? You tempt me week after week, and you make me do these things to you. She believed it. She was 12. Another man finally brought his grooming to the light. He said, I was at a sleepover when I was younger, and the older brother told me to just come upstairs with him for a minute. And then what happened, I couldn't believe. But as I walked out of that room, he said, you better never tell anyone. And to this day, he said, I had never said a word. Could that have been you? Could it have been me? I think the bigger question, could it be your daughter? Could it be your son today, right now? We have all kept our secrets. Are they keeping theirs? It looks different for everyone. How do some people end up on a producer's couch? It's in the headlines every day. How do they keep their mouths shut and do the unthinkable for jobs they no longer feel are worth it? Or how does a boy say, I'm fine, I got it under control. I just like to stay numb, I like the feeling. What's under that? I believe that there's more. I believe that it's time that we are to give voice. What is it that allows our culture to be okay? It's in a headline one day and then it's gone. How does a man buy intimacy from an Asian spa? What is the grooming of a wealthy man that is okay using a woman that's been trapped, coerced, living a life of abuse? How does that begin? What is it that is allowing us to be okay with the stats that are coming out rapidly every day? The average age that our children are exposed to porn, 8 years old. Not the old porn that we might have seen, some intense, gruesome porn. An article just came out, written by a little girl. 13-year-old girl wrote this article, and she talked about having to have sex, being used for sex by the boys because they were all porn obsessed and wanted to do what they're watching. But the clincher of the article that got me was she closed it by saying, all of this used for sex, and I'm still waiting for my first kiss. Who's teaching our children what love is not? I believe that it's time. I believe it's time to pause. I believe it is time for more, because I believe in a world of freedom. I believe in a world where we get ahead of the grooming, where we expose it. We're able to put words around the things that need to be spoken. Where I work, we say a word all the time, Fela. Fela is a Hebrew word, and it means to rest, to pause, or to reflect. I invite you to Selah. You have just heard a lot. A lot might be coming up. Your mind might be whirling. Memories might be going through you. Just take a moment and pause. Because there's a reason. If there's something happening within you, it's because it's needed. It's vitally needed. So I ask you to please do not let this moment pass. Do not leave it on the table and say, oh, that was a great talk. But if there's something in you, if there's a question mark, if you wonder, should I have told my daughter that story? Because if you don't tell her, you have no idea if it's happening to her today. Whatever is in you, I invite you to join me. Join me in this conversation, and let's fight for our children. We were created to be defenders and protectors. And that begins with ourselves. First ourselves, and then others. We must uncover our own grooming, bring it back up, bring it to the table so that we can dispel the myths from which we've been living. Let's fight for ourselves and for our children, because It may have started with a secret, but it ends today with you. Thank you.